The main human character says to this robot, "This is not my war." And just as he says that, a bomb comes through the air and blows up the building behind him, and the robot says, "Yeah, I think you're wrong. You're already in the war. It's already here." The Apostle Paul was not telling them, not giving them a suggestion. He was not saying, if you have a lot of free time on your hands, if you're bored and you don't know what to do, stand against the forces of darkness. He's saying, we're at war. Look around. I don't even have to look at other places. I can examine my heart. The Apostle Paul said it best again. He said, you know, the things I want to do, I don't do, and the things I don't want to do, I keep doing those over and over and over again. It's because of this spiritual war. It's harder because you could see a physical war coming. The forces that we're at war against are invisible and very sneaky and very deadly. But we're told to stand our ground. I think it's interesting that we're not told to advance against these forces. We're told to stand our ground. Paul's using the analogy of Roman armor for this entire section of Scripture, and was doing some research and realized that the tactic that Rome used to conquer the world was to stand their ground. That their armor and their shield and their weapons were designed in such a way that when they engaged the enemy, what they did is they got together, they hunkered down, they exposed their armor to the enemy, and they stayed there, and they let the enemy come at them, and come at them, and come at them, and they didn't budge until the enemy was exhausted, and then they went for the victory. That Rome conquered the world simply by standing firm. I'm going to read to you a speech that was given by Winston Churchill as he took office as Prime Minister of England at the very beginning of World War II. And even in 1940, when he gave this speech, things were already grim. If you know world history, you know that shortly after this, if you were to draw a map of Europe and color the parts that the Nazis controlled in black and color the parts that democracy controlled in white, there would be a lot of black and only one flicker of white. And it's on the eve of that reality that he gives this speech. On Friday evening last, I received from His Majesty the mission to form a new administration. It was the evident will of Parliament and the nation that this should be conceived on the broadest possible basis, and it should include all parties. I have already completed the most important part of this task. A war cabinet has been formed of 5 members representing, with the Labour, Opposition, and Liberals, the unity of the nation. It was necessary that this should be done in one single day on account of the extreme urgency and rigor of events. Other key positions were filled yesterday. I am submitting a further list to the King tonight. I hope the complete assignment of principal ministers will be finished tomorrow. The appointment of other ministers usually takes a little longer. I trust when Parliament meets again, this part of my task will be completed and that the administration will be complete in all respects. I considered it in the public interest to suggest to the Speaker that the House should be summoned today. At the end of today's proceedings, the adjournment of the House will be postponed until May 21st with provision for earlier meetings. I now invite the House by resolution to record its approval of the steps taken and declare its confidence with the new government. The resolution that this House welcomes the formation of a government representing the united and inflexible resolve of the nation to prosecute the war with Germany to a victorious conclusion. To form an administration of this scale and complexity is a serious undertaking in itself, but we are in the preliminary phase of one of the greatest battles in history. We are in action at many other points, in Norway and in Holland, and we have to be prepared in the Mediterranean. The air battle is continuing, and many preparations have been made here at home. In this crisis, I think I might be pardoned if I do not address the House at any length today, And I hope that any of my friends and colleagues, or former colleagues who are affected by the political reconstruction, will make allowances for any lack of ceremony. I say to the House, as I have said to ministers who have joined the government, I have nothing to offer but blood, toil, tear, and sweat. We have before us an ordeal of the most grievous kind. We have before us many, many months of struggle and suffering. You ask, what is our policy? I will say it is to wage war by land, sea, and air. War with all of our might and with all the strength that God has given us. And to wage war against a monstrous tyranny never surpassed in the dark and lamentable catalog of human crime. That is our policy. You ask, what is our aim? I can answer in one word. It is victory. Victory at all costs. Victory in spite of all terrors. Victory, however long and hard and dark the road may be. For without victory, there is no survival. Let that be realized. No survival for the British Empire. No survival for all that the British Empire has stood for. No survival for the urge, the impulse of the ages that mankind shall move forward towards that goal. I take up my task in buoyancy and hope. I feel sure that our cause will not be suffered to fail among the living. I feel entitled at this juncture, at this time, to claim the aid of all and to say, come then, let us go forward together in our united strength, and may God bless us. Winston Churchill, May 13th, 1940. I think he understood what Paul was talking about when he said, we have to stand firm. No promises of ease, no promise of anything except the victory if we stand firm. And Paul tells us when we've stood, in order to be ready for that, to buckle on the belt of truth. If you study Roman armor, you find out that the reason he mentions the belt of truth first is that that was the central piece. If that belt was in place, the armor fit and worked the way it was supposed to. If that belt was not in place, you couldn't wear the armor. And Paul is telling us that at the center of everything we do as a church, as the people of God, when we move forward in this dark world, must be centered around the truth. And the world would lie to us. The world would lie to us and tell us that the forces that are against us are stronger than we are, but that's not true. The world embraces the idea of the yin and the yang. You know what I'm talking about? It's that symbol that looks like the two teardrops with the two little circles inside.